What is going on, everyone? Welcome to a Nice Slice Studio video. Today we're going to take a little bit of a different route. Instead of doing our normal product hunt reviews, we're actually going to be reviewing the R1 Rabbit. Let me get it switched over. The R1 Rabbit Keynote. It came out about a month ago. It went viral. It's got over 5 million views. I'll share the link to the video down below. I'm sure you've seen this. But I don't want to talk so much about the product itself or how the tech or the new technology or the artificial intelligence. Instead, I want to do an entire marketing breakdown of this keynote, how it works, how Jesse here in this video uses positioning, how he uses specific languaging, the types of words, and how he positions the R1 compared to the old guard of smartphones and Siri and Alexa and all that. If you're a co-founder watching this right now, you're running a tech company right now, and you're thinking about doing a keynote, you're thinking about doing maybe a product launch video, and you're not quite sure how to put this all into a video, which features to even put inside a video, how to position ourselves, how to make our customers think a specific way about our app versus other apps. We're going to kind of settle into this video. It might be 30, 45 minutes. I have no idea how long this video is going to be, but I want to kind of go through, and by the end of this, you're going to have a really clear sense of what we're going to talk about in our keynote, how to structure a keynote, and even some languaging tips and positioning on how to talk about our app moving forward in the future. So let's talk about the R1. I've got the keynote here queued up. Off the bat, first, we got to put the disclaimer out there. Yes, it's very Apple style. It's an Apple keynote. Of course, we got to comment about that, but that is, but that's something they should steal. That's a great factor, a great feature to steal from. They got the whole keynote, Apple iOS, big super background, the floaty camera, all that's great. Let's talk about the video itself. Let's dive in.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jesse, and I'm the founder and CEO of Rabbit. I'm so excited to be here today to present to you two things we've been working on: a revolutionary new foundation model and a groundbreaking consumer mobile device powered by it. Our mission is to create the simplest computer, something so intuitive that you don't need to learn how to use it. The best way to achieve this is to break away from app-based operating system currently used by smartphones. Instead, we envision a natural language-centered approach. The computer we're building, which we call a companion, should be able to talk to, understand, and more importantly, get things done for you. The future of human-machine interfaces.
All right, so that's the first 50 seconds. And all of that, how we kind of covers it. It's the overview. He has what's called the promise. You see that a lot of times in like YouTube videos, like, hey guys, in the next 20 minutes, I'm going to show you how to do X, Y, Z. Or in the next, you're going to learn how to do these exact steps, X, Y, Z. You're kind of giving a big sense of like, hey, this is what you're going to take away from this video. This is what you're going to learn about. Throughout this video, I want you to notice what types of words he's using, how he's using those words, and like the type of what you think you know and what you thought about, or like, I used to think about a smartphone like this, or how he thinks about a smartphone is it's no longer a smartphone, or it's not a handheld device, it's a companion. And that's kind of like, that's a really powerful languaging trick you can do. We kind of did this when we made like the Sam Cart keynote. You kind of want to create a word or find a word where your customers get it 70% of the way. And then there's that 30% bridge that they have to kind of cross that gap there. They're like, you hear him say, and what we have is called a companion. And you're like, I think I know what a companion is. But I'm curious, like, what do you think a companion is? Or when you guys say companion, what are you talking about? Because I think I know what a companion is, or like a little companion device. What are you talking about? So like that 30% gap is kind of like really builds in some interest. So again, let's kind of go over here. He's got the overview here, sets up, hey, you're going to talk about a new model. We're going to talk about a mobile device that's going to kind of lock us in and say, hey, I'm here for this. This is what I want to watch. Another great part in the opening is we're kind of doing two things at once, but it's not said here, but it's clearly written above him, the mission statement. Who are you? What's the flag that you want to plant in the ground? And then now we kind of get into, I'm going to switch over to our mirror board. So this is where we're at. We have the overview, and now we're going to get into the current landscape. This is the next part.
I started. Let's take more intuitive. The nature of human-machine interfaces should be more intuitive. Now, before we get started, let's take a look at the existing mobile devices that we use daily. The one device that's in your pocket, the smartphones, like iPhone and Android phones. These guys been here for years, and we've grown tired of them. The problem with these devices, however, is not the hardware form factor. It's what's inside. The app-based operating system. Want to get a ride to the office? There's an app for that. Want to buy groceries? There's another app for that. Each time you want to do something, you fumble through multiple pages and folders to find the app you want to use. And there are always endless buttons that you need to click. Add to the cart, go to the next page, check the boxes, and jumping back and forth, and so on. The smartphone was supposed to be intuitive. But with hundreds of apps on your phone today that don't work together, it no longer is. If you look at the top ranking apps on app stores today, you'll find that most of them focus on entertainment.
So he set up the problem here. He has set up, here's what the current landscape looks like. We have all these iPhones, we have all these smartphones, we have all these apps. Like, again, just kind of follow what he's saying with the language, how he even kind of goes into, once he set up that problem, he goes into, kind of agitates it a little bit more. He kind of gives you this visual, oh, you have an app for this, an app for that. Back in the day, an app, when it said, you have an app for this or there's an app for that, hey, navigation, there's an app for that. That used to be a really positive statement. Oh, you want a game for this? Oh, there's an app for that. Oh, you need to measure this? Oh, there's an app for that. Oh, you want to order food? There's an app for that. That was a super positive thing. That was the best marketing that Apple came out with the App Store. They're like, hey, there's an app for that. And now he's kind of taken it and flipped it and said, wow, there's an app for everything. Oh, shit, there's an app for everything. Wow, there's too many apps for everything. And then he kind of goes into that visual language where he gives you, add to cart, click this check, going back and forth. And you're kind of following him along. You're like, yeah, that is a problem. And what you didn't, the entire time, or this whole problem setup is, he's kind of making you realize something that has always kind of been there that you didn't quite notice. But now that you notice it, you can't unnotice it. So he's kind of calling out the status quo. He's calling out the obvious. Oh yeah, I do. There is an app for everything. Oh yeah, I do. My smartphone is. Oh yeah, this it is kind of clunky, or there are too many apps to go through if I want to do a specific task. So as he kind of sets you up on this, he said, this is a problem, this is a problem, and this is an even worse problem. And he's kind of like, now you as the audience are watching, you're like, yeah, that is a problem. Okay, what do I do now? How do we solve this? And then one other word here, I kind of highlighted a lot of the words that he used, app-based operating system. This is a positioning statement. This is a specific language for them that they're going to, I've watched a couple other interviews from Jesse, and he's gone out and said this phrase specifically, app-based operating system. When you're doing great positioning, when you are trying to set yourself against the market, set yourself against your competitors, or who your customers think are your competitors, you want to use these types of words and phrases that kind of draw a circle around the old guard, or kind of draw a circle around the other, and it kind of creates, and it kind of separates them, and it kind of creates this like icky feeling. It's when there was analog, like when there was no one saying like analog versus digital. But when digital came out, then now you have to something to say, like you have to like draw a circle around. Okay, everything that's not digital is analog. It's this. It's yucky. It's old. This is digital. This is new. So what he's doing the exact same thing here. He's saying our thing is this. He hasn't said what it is yet. And everything else, or the old guard, or the old status quo, is app-based operating systems. And you go that, and now it just feels kind of gross. You're like, oh yeah, my iPhone, my Android, all that is, my iPad, all that is like, ew, that is app-based operating systems. And maybe that isn't the right way, or maybe that's not something that I want anymore in my life. It's great. Great so far. All right, let's get into it.
Our smartphones has become the best device to kill time instead of saving them. It's just harder for them to do things. Many people before us have tried to build a simpler and more intuitive computers with AI a decade ago. Companies like Apple, Microsoft, and Amazon made Siri, Cortana, and Alexa with these smart speakers. Often, they either don't know what you're talking about or fail to accomplish the tasks we ask for. Recent achievements in large language models, however,
that section I love right there. If you want to talk shit about your competition and you want to maintain your credibility, that's how you do it. You give them credit. You say, hey, this worked. And he did the same thing with the App Store too. He said like, hey, this was the dream. This was the ideal outcome. People have made a pretty solid attempt. People have really done a great job. They did the best they could, but it just didn't work out. The Siri, Alexa, it's a really great attempt. It's a good job. They did a great job, but we all know, and then you kind of state the fact, and you're like, but we all know that it's not great. And that's how you just kind of like, he's slowly winning over the audience. Be like, yeah, you're right. Like, if he was just gone out and said like, hey, Siri sucks, Alexa sucks, it sucks, I know it sucks. It's like, it's not as tactful, and you're also kind of like, it's a little more, you're creating a little bit too much friction with your audience. You're creating a little bit too much like, maybe someone is like, they do like Siri, or they do like Alexa, or they do like their apps on their phone. And so if you were to take that approach and say like, apps suck, having an app store is terrible, this is a terrible experience. If like you start with a negative, then you don't really have credibility, and you don't give an opening for your audience to be like, yeah, okay, hey, I'm going to come with you. But if we say like, hey, you know what? They did a great job. They tried their best. Well, it just didn't work out. And you're like, yeah, I guess you're right. It didn't work out. I am with you. Like, that's how you kind of do the Jedi mind trick with them.
LLMs, a type of AI technology, have made it much easier for machines to understand you. The popularity of LLM chatbots over the past years has shown that the natural language-based experience is the path forward. However,
again, give credit, talk how great it is, and then flip it. However,
the assistant struggle is still getting things done. For example, if you go to the ChatGPT and use their Expedia plugin to book a ticket, it can suggest options, but ultimately cannot assist you in completing the booking process from start to finish. Things like ChatGPT are extremely good at understanding your intentions, but could be better at triggering actions. Another hot topic is a field of research around what they call agents. It has caught the eye of many.
So he's setting up the current, we're setting up the current landscape, and now we're kind of setting up, this is what's on the bleeding edge. This is the horizon. Right now we had Siri and Alexa, and now we kind of move into like, this is the new tech that's on the rise. We have the LLMs, we have agents, and then he frames it, they can do things. They can give you answers, they can give you creative output, but they can't do actions. And he talks about actions, and he specifically uses that word because then he flips it and talks about that they set out on a mission to create something called, instead of a large language model, he then takes that and tilts it at 5% and says, oh, it's a large action model. So instead of an LLM, it's an LAM. But I'm getting ahead of myself.
Open source projects and productivity software companies. What remains to be solved is for these agents to perform tasks end-to-end, accurately and speedily. The problem is forcing a model to perform a task it is not designed for, whether for a language model to reason about web page using super prompts.
Again, not talking shit, just kind of giving the obvious, like, hey, they're doing their best. They're doing their best, but these things weren't designed for this type of thing.
Or screenshots. We have yet to produce an agent as good as users simply clicking the buttons. To fulfill our vision of a delightful, intuitive companion, we must go beyond a piece of complex software. We want it to be in the hands of everyone. So, we first set out to fundamentally understand how computer apps are structured, and more importantly, how humans interact with them. We wanted to find a way for our AI to trigger auctions on behalf of users across all environments. We want it to be universal, not just a Chrome plugin or a limited set of apps, but everything, iOS, Android, and desktop. These applications share something in common, the interface. They all have a user interface. So, at a philosophical level, if we can make an AI trigger actions on any kind of interface, just like a human would, we will solve the problem. This insight led us to create the large action model, or LAM, as we call it. It is a new foundational model.
So they've set out on a mission. This is the problem. This is our theory. This is, kind of, when you kind of talk like this, when you talk about, hey, this is our theory, this is our mission, this is what we believe, not a mission statement or a belief statement, but this is what we're seeing in the market. This is what we're testing out. This is what we're working on. And now we're going to put it all under this big bucket and call it, or big umbrella, and call it a large action model. It gives your customers something to talk about. It gives your customers language to speak on this. And it brings people, it kind of brings them along for the ride. Like, hey, that is a kind of a cool mission. That is a cool thing to strive for. That is a cool problem that you guys are trying to solve. I like how you set this up. I like what you talked about with app-based operating systems. Yes, you're right. Alexa and Siri have not panned out. LLMs right now are still as great as they are. They're not there yet. This is kind of cool. I'm kind of here for the ride. So that, like, talking like this, setting up the problem, giving credit to people in the past, and then saying, this is what we're going to do. Keep watching. Join us.
That understands and executes human intentions on computers, driven by our research in neural symbolic systems. With a large action model, we fundamentally find a solution to the challenges that apps, APIs, or agents face. We solve it with interfaces. LAM can learn any interfaces from any software, regardless of which platform they're running on. In short, the large language model understands what you say, but the large action model gets things done. We use
the last minute here, everything he just says is very technical, you got to be in the know, you got to know about operating systems, user interface, know about LLMs, how they work. So this part kind of confused me. As I would say, like, I am in the tech world, but I'm not I'm not a developer, I'm not a coder, so like I don't know large language models. So like this is where I'm like, all right, what is this segment of the video for? But this is like separate from our lesson here today. But I'm like, what is this? Is it just to give credibility, or is it like now we're speaking to developers who are listening out there, or are we speaking to consumers? Because the product that they're about to show is very consumer centric. Like, this is a consumer product for the masses, not aimed at developers.
From any function, what you're trying to do. It is built for real-time advanced RabbitOS operating system. It is built for real-time interactions between you and the Rabbit. Powerful. Large action models concept and test results are so powerful that we decided to make a one-of-a-kind mobile device. Introducing R1, your pocket companion.
So right there, mobile device, he says companion. I think you could have just combined those words right there. So let's I'll give you the sexiness. We'll watch the 3D demo, and then we'll get into the positioning lesson. It's just music here, and it's it's flawless how great it is. Nuts.
this is the Rabbit R1.
Okay. Now we're getting into the product demo. I just had to show you guys. That was great. Hire a 3D artist, get someone to 3D scan your product, create it in 3D, Blender or whatever, and just show, because that, like, I don't have the product is not here, but watching that, you go, I 100% get how the product looks, feels, I can hear it, I can feel it, I can almost touch it. It's like, it was tactile enough, that type of video. So, super great job. So this is the entire setup here. I'm going to scoot this video all the way out of the way. This was the setup for the video. We're now, how far are we into the video? 7.5 minutes out of 25, or about, we're about a third of the way into the entire keynote. And we've done the overview, we've set up the current landscape, we've talked about problems, trying to solve the problems in the past, the new tech that's on the rise, the mission that they are on, kind of, again, reviewing the old versus new model, and then introducing the product itself. Like, that takes us into, I guess, Act 2, or the next chapter. This entire thing, I'm kind of labeling it Sins of the Father. You're talking about everything that came before us, all the problems. It may not be our problem. It may not be our fault. We kind of have come to grips with the current status of everything, and this is how we're going to change these things. And this is the solution. So within that, you have your kind of PAS framework, your problem, agitate, solution. Problem being, this was the old guard, smartphones, app-based operations, agitate. It sucks. It's not there yet. We want it to be there, but it's just not. There's got to be a better way. And then solution, oh, la-di-da, magic. It's our product is our solution. With the positioning, there's 3 things, and we're going to go down to the positioning chapter or section down below this in this mirror board. How to position your product, it kind of takes 3 things. You kind of want to name your enemy, you want to claim it, or the kind of combo, the old combo is like name it and claim it. If you want to have like a catchphrase or something, or name a specific product, name your enemy, claim it, and then bridge the gap. With positioning, or what is positioning? How does this work? Why do I need to know positioning for my app, for my software? Positioning is how you fit into the market. And more specifically, it's how your customers fit you into the market. Because the positioning, you can do as much as you can. You can set up with languaging, with the words that you use, the phrases that you use, the stories that you tell. But it's really up to your customers, or how your customers, when they think about your product, how do they think about it? And in what context do they think about it? Do they think about it as, with the R1, am I supposed to think about this as a mobile device? Am I supposed to think about this as an AI device? Am I supposed to think about this as, like, how does it compare to other competitors in the landscape? That's positioning. How it fits in the world. How your customers fit your product into the world. So the first part of positioning is you want to name your enemy. You want to talk about the old guard, because you have to have something to compare to. And I'm not the biggest fan of making comparison videos, or, the very classic thing in software is to make a, like, our product versus competitor product. It's Shopify versus Samcart, or, Kajabi versus Thinkific, or Podium, or YouTube versus Vimeo. Which is better? Which app is better? And so that kind of, like, I'm not a huge fan of that, but in positioning, you have to name your enemy. And you don't have to specifically say Google is the enemy, Apple is the enemy for like this R1 video, but you have to talk about the old guard. You have to talk about where we came from, what the status quo is. You have to talk about past and present. And then when you name your enemy too, you also have to draw that gross, icky circle around it and say, this is gross, this is the old thing, this is nasty, we don't like this. Because once you do that, I wrote here this little side note here, that you can never look at these things the same. Once you've kind of called out to your customers and made them realize that there's something is a problem, and that the status quo is kind of gross, or I've been noticing something, but I haven't been able to quite put my finger on it. Positioning is you putting your finger on it and helping your customers put their finger on it and say, oh, you're right. That is the problem. And now I cannot stand or be satisfied with this current problem. So this is how he names the enemy, talks about LLMs versus LAMs. He names it, I probably put this over here, the large action model. And this is the really big one. This, app-based operating system. And I won't use gray. I'll use a nice red. Here we go. App-based operating system. That now, he doesn't say smartphone, because smartphone is a very positive word. Like, oh, hey, it's smartphone. He doesn't say it's a dumb, he doesn't try to be funny or goofy or clever, be like, our dumb phones of the past, or the smartphones aren't so smart anymore. It's just making it, it's almost clinical how gross it sounds, and you're like, where it's just this odd neutral thing that just sits on your table now, and it's just kind of a dead thing that's just out there, like, ew, gross. App-based operating system, yeah, like that is a problem, and it sounds very like, McKinsey consulting type words, but it's words like this and it's phrases like this that start to, you're building this gap in people's minds, and like you're stretching that problem, you're exacerbating that problem, and by giving a name to it, your customers are able to start articulating. It's like, you're right, yeah, having all these apps is a problem, and then they might not ever say app-based operating system, but use the CEO, you as in your email marketing, on your website, in your videos, you're starting to pound that name over and over, app-based operating system. Yeah, the problem that we see today is the app-based operating system out there. That's the landscape that is the current problem here. So that's the first part, is naming your enemy. The next part of positioning is to claim it. So you're going to give your customers, help them take their finger and put it on. I almost had, it's on the tip of my tongue. I don't know how to exactly articulate it. What's the word? What's the phrase that I'm looking for? Give your viewers the words that they need to articulate what this problem is, articulate what the new solution is. I wrote here, tech bros love to use mumbo jumbo. Love to use, gosh, when we're given these, the product team makes the products, they hand it over to marketing, and the product team, the product managers, the product designers, they all want to have their say in it on like, this feature is important, this feature is cool, or they have some bias to it where they're like, they worked really hard on it, or this was a really hard problem, or this was a really hard batch of code to make, and they're just like, this is most important. And then you, on the marketing side, you read the list of everything and you're like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Or like, this feature that you just highlighted that you think is so good, I don't even know how this works. I use the app every day and I don't even know how this feature would improve myself or how this feature would improve the experience for our customers. So they love to use the mumbo jumbo tech language. It's like dash proof, render-based automated retrieval for your expedited data, and you're like, what the fuck are you talking about? So like, no, it's like, it will give you faster results. Oh, okay, cool. That is actually interesting. So like, take all the tech mumbo jumbo, and you have to give your customers approachable language, because when the key, again, this is not about how you think you fit in the market. This is how your customers fit you into the market. It's their job to take you and put you into the market. It's not your job to put you into the market. You give the language to your customers that's approachable, that's something they can use in conversation. We talk about word of mouth a lot. Word of mouth is approachable language. When I'm talking to a friend, when I'm telling them about what the R1 is, when I'm telling them what the Rabbit one is, or what it's about, or how to use it, or hey, I saw this new thing on YouTube, or hey, this new product just came out. What do I say next? What comes out of my mouth? And as a company, when you're building these features, when you're building these products, what do you want your customers to say? Your customers are not going to say the app-based operating system, but they are going to say, oh yeah, it's like a little companion in your pocket. That it's an AI companion in your pocket that you take around and it does tasks for you. That's a very approachable, very, what's the third grade version of this, third grade reading level version of this when I'm talking about your product? You could almost say it's like, the mom test. We talk on the mom or the grandma test, like, if I can explain my product to you, if I can explain how this feature works to my mom or to my grandma, what would I say? How would I say it? And that is probably how you should talk about your product. And then finally, bridging the gap. So you've talked about the old guard, talked about the enemy. You now claimed it. You give them some language to use. Here's how to talk about our product. Now you kind of got to bridge the gap. You got to give them examples. You have to make some connections. You have to add context. In this video, a lot in the R1 keynote, Jesse uses a lot of, it's like this. It's like this. It's more, it says, it's like a walkie-talkie. He says, it's more up to date than ChatGPT. He says it's faster than an iPhone. He says, our cloud-based system, when you're doing task management, it's just, it stores everything just like iCloud, or it's secure, just like iCloud. So all these things, like we know, I've talked about this with Product Hunt videos, that, in your tagline, don't say it's Notion for content creators. You're like, you got to you can't lean on the use of other companies to support your argument for what your company does. But when you're talking about, when you're giving your customers the language or the conversations to talk about, you say like, here's the approachable language, and it's kind of like this. It's kind of like this. It's like iCloud. It's like an iPhone. It's like a little walkie-talkie. You just press and hold and talk to it like a walkie-talkie. Hey, we all know what a walkie-talkie is as kids. Oh yeah, we just use it. You hold down and you talk. Oh yeah, that's very approachable. So those are the three things. Name your enemy, claim it, and then bridge the gap. Give them examples. Let them kind of see the light. What I'm kind of referencing all this, and if you want to like learn more about positioning, these books, they're all from the same authors. I've read all these. I love these books. Snow Leopard, Marketer's Guide to Category Design, Category Toolkit, and I just read the 22 Laws of Category Design. They're all by Category Pirates, which is a group of 4 or 5 authors, I think. Nicholas Cole being one of them, and a couple other guys who have done a lot of tech, Google, Spotify, huge companies, done the marketing agencies, and done a lot of positioning for those large tech companies. But read these books. This is going to give you kind of a clear sense on like how to position, how to talk about your product, how to set yourself apart from the competition without having to always rely on talking about your competition. So let's get back into the video. I want to breeze through a little bit of the product demo. The product demo for me, and you can watch this video again, I'll link the R1 demo down, the keynote below. How I felt with the product demo is the 3D video was great. And then we kind of get into, this is how it works. Hold to talk. It's like an iPhone. It's like a walkie-talkie. It's more up to date than ChatGPT. They do, let's see how many, 1, 2, 3, 4. We do like up to like 11 different demos in this video. And I understand like it's the context for a keynote where you can kind of settle in, and it does this, and it does this, and it does this, and it does this. And I thought you could probably have cut the demos in half, done half the demos, and then on the very last demo, just kind of list out everything else that you didn't mention. List everything out that you could have done. This is all the other capabilities. Because the problem with kind of setting up these, if you watch it, they go through like 11 very specific demos. And we'll watch one here for a second. And the problem with having such a specific demo like this is now it makes me think like, this is the only thing that it's capable of. It's like, I can book a trip to London. And you're like, as the customer watching this, you're like, well, I'm not booking a trip to London. Or like, how many times do I book a flight in a year? Like, I book a flight once or twice or 3 times a year or less, if that. So then you're like, all right, well, if I'm barely booking a flight in the year, like, am I ever going to use this product? Okay, so you mean to tell me that this orange little thing is just for booking flights? So that's kind of like, you got to kind of watch out with the demos. Like, it can kind of lock you in. It's great to show examples, but it can lock you in to be like, is this the only thing it can do? That it makes your customers feel like that. But at the very end, if they gave this big title card, this big, the big bento box, and said it can do this, and more, again, give your customers that, you want to give your customers positive, let them imagine the positive things in the world. These are endless possibilities, as opposed to like, here are the 9 specific use cases. This is the only thing it can do, and that's it. So we'll watch a demo here.
Designed in collaboration with Teenage Engineering, the R1 is a fully standalone device primarily driven by natural language. The accumulation of countless hours of work from our research, design, and software teams. It is simple to use. R1 is equipped with everything you need to interact with you and perceive your surroundings. It comes with a touchscreen, a push-to-talk button, and an analog scroll wheel, a microphone and speakers, and a computer vision-enabled 360-degree rotational camera we call the Rabbit Eye. It is Bluetooth and Wi-Fi capable, and it has the same card slots that supports global 4G LTE network. And now, let's see how it works. I can ask Rabbit for anything, just like if I'm using ChatGPT. The difference, though, is the speed.
They're good. That's the language. Like, it's just like ChatGPT.
With Rabbit OS,
So it kind of like pulls you along.
I get a response 10 times faster than most of the voice AI projects. Rabbit answers my questions within 500 milliseconds. With the push-to-talk button, you don't need to say anything to wake it up. Just press and hold the button and talk, like a walkie-talkie. Now, let's give it a shot.
Like a walkie-talkie?
What's the nature of the reality?
The nature of reality is a topic that has captivated the minds of philosophers.
This first example they gave was like, come on, dude. All right, what is the nature of reality? It is a little. I think some of these examples are meant to be funny, and they kind of. When I first watched this, I got a little bit of a laugh out of it, but then now I'm watching it again. I'm like, what is the nature of reality? You're like, God, it's such a. It's a very tech thing to do.
And thinkers throughout history. According to Bertrand Russell, reality is composed of hard data derived from.
So now it's like this is a cool use case. Ask anything, and then you're giving like, do people even want this? And according to Dr. Bertrand Russell in 19, you're like, boring.
Sensory experiences and logical analysis. It is the amalgamation of our perceptions, thoughts, and the external world.
Will pop up. You will also know that the response speed is much faster than using some of the LLM assistant apps with web browsing, such as ChatGPT. What's the stock price of Coca-Cola?
So this one's good too. This second demo here, he basically frames it like, I skipped over a little bit, but he talks about the first 3 or 4 demos here. It's kind of positioning. It's more positioning. It's like ChatGPT. You can talk to it like ChatGPT, but unlike ChatGPT, it's faster, it's more up to date, and it's going to give you, and it can do actions. And then it shows you how to do actions, and then it kind of switches over to
and the development.
How they all log in iCloud. Let's say I want to listen to some music.
And then we take a transition over to the MacBook. We show everything on the MacBook, and then it kind of goes into some very. I think they were trying to do like, here's the top use cases of everything. You know, hey, book a trip, play some music, book an Uber. Pizza Hut, multi-action, which is good. Camera vision, you got to show the camera vision, how the camera works. And then they did documents. So now that I'm kind of thinking about it, every one of these demos it's necessary because it takes apart every component of the product. But now that I'm wishing is they had a final thing to say like, and it can also do so much more. It can do. And then show all the apps, show all the, it does MailChimp and this and that and Spotify and podcasting. And it can show all the examples, give people a wide imagination of what is capable with this thing. Let's switch over. Let's keep going to the pivot side of the R1.
R1. Let's reply to the call from Rabbit routine. We are a friend. Use image.
So it does the task.
Explain.
This part too, with the entire product demo, it does kind of slow down a little bit. You kind of and kind of watching more and more and more. You're like, all right, is there another demo that you got to watch? Maybe take some of these demos and put them in a separate video.
And that's it. It's not as you smell.
Please give me a moment to.
Teach mode.
Speaking of the current app-based phones, the first question we ask about ourselves is, why would I?
So now we're in the pivot. the pivot is a classic word from that word's taken from the webinar world. You watch your webinar. Hey, thanks for joining the webinar. Today we're going to do this. We're going to learn the top 5 things on how to do this new strategy technique. You go through everything. You talk about the current, just like a webinar, you talk about the problems. You talk about all 5 things or 5 strategies. And then once you get towards the end of the video, you do something what's called the pivot, where you change from teaching mode and back into selling mode. So you say, hey, and if you stuck around this far, have I got a great deal for you? Now, if you're sticking around, if you've made it, you hear like, if you've made it this far into the video, then stick around and listen to this. This is the pivot. This is where I've watched everything. I'm now 22 and a half minutes into the video. I want to hear what the sales pitch is. So first, what he does is he talks about the objection.
I need a new device. First question we ask about ourselves is, why would I need a new device if I already have a $1,000 iPhone? My iPhone can't do any of this at all. We do not build Rabbit.
Great objection. I'm thinking this exact thing. Wait a minute, you mean to tell me this whole thing can replace my iPhone? No, this thing is not meant to replace your iPhone. Oh, okay, I'm still listening.
R1 to replace your phone. It's just a different generation of devices. The app-based.
Cool. Another great language point right there. It's a different generation. This is a different generational thing. This is not the sequel. This is not the iPhone, whatever we are on now, like iPhone 16. This is not the improvement. This is not the new bigger brother or little brother to the iPhone. This is a new generation.
System was introduced more than 15 years ago, and the new generation of native AI-powered devices are just getting started. Here's a quick recap. R1 is our companion that hosts the large action model with natural language. I can use it for a wide range of tasks. Ask anything, direct actions.
So we got the bento box here showing you everything that we've done. Here's a recap. Here's everything it can do. I wish, again, I want to see more use cases, or like show some like funky apps in the corner, or like, the Expedia and the Uber and the Spotify app in the corner to remind me like, oh, this thing exists or can do much more than just what's listed here.
Complex actions.
Like rabbit hole, web portal, stop motion powered that's a weird, I wouldn't phrase it like that maybe. Teach mode, experimental teach mode, I would just say teach mode, direct actions, complex actions. Does this need its own bento box? Computer eye vision, we've already got this here. And some of it's a little repetitive, so like take some of these, switch them around, condense some of them, and then talk about like all the use cases as well.
AI enhanced video calls, note taker, translator, with a rabbit eye, computer vision, and experimental teach mode. On the hardware perspective, we got a 360 rotational camera, button, and this. Now, before one last thing. What about a price?
What about a price? Let's talk about a price. So this is great. I love how to do this. What they're about to do right now and set this up, again, it's back to that positioning. We've kind of gone full circle. At the very beginning of the video, we talked about positioning, who we are, who our enemies are, who we are.
Before we reveal our price, I want to do a quick comparison. Here are some of the best phones on the market right now. You got iPhone, you got latest version of Android.
Best phones on the market. Again, giving credit to your enemies. Hey, these are amazing things. These products are amazing. And look how much they cost.
Android phones. We're looking at somewhere around $700 to $1,000 for a top phone with an app-based system. I bought my new iPhone 15 Pro Max last year, and it's the same experience as my previous ones.
Okay, video cut out. We're back. I told you this is a long video.
Last year with an app-based system. We're looking at somewhere around $700 to $1,000 for a top phone with an app-based system. I bought my new iPhone 15 Pro Max last year, and it's the same experience as my previous ones. Here are not so smart speakers. They're
not so
asking
smart speakers.
roughly around $200, but they're all outdated. And finally, here are a couple of the new things with only large language models. You got AI Paying asking for $699 plus monthly subscriptions for their base model.
So this is classic price anchoring. This is showing what the competition is out there. We're all familiar with all this stuff. and then showing the prices. Nothing on here is going to be the price of what R1 is going to be. So we got $999, $799, $699, $600, $299, all these huge. And again, we've already compared all these. We've already told the audience now that these are the weird things. These are the failed attempts at what we're trying to achieve.
Models. You got Tab asking for $600, and you got Meta Ray-Ban glasses asking for roughly $300. Remember, these are the things with only large language model. We still think these were too expensive. We priced the Rabbit R1 at $199, no subscription, no hidden fees. You can order the R1 now at rabbit.tech, and we are shipping Easter 2024. I can't wait for you to experience the R1 for yourself. Thank you.
And we're out. How they do that close, the price reveal, it's like we had so much buildup and we've set up the problems so much. We've talked about all the features, everything, that it's kind of amazing. I almost want it to be a little, or maybe that's just my flavor, like a little bit more salesy or a little bit more like, and today only, and you can get this now, or that's my e-commerce background. Yeah, they just say the price and they're out. That's it. There's nothing really. Thank you for watching. See you later. They, again, restate the positioning. They anchor the price. They show, again, great. Not so smart speakers, smartphone pricing, AI wearables. And then they say, our price is $199, no subscription, give you a shipping date, and they're out. They're out. That's it. So that's the entire R1, well, almost the entire, again, watch the entire video down below. That's the entire R1 Rabbit review from a marketer's perspective, a positioning perspective. Let's end it right here. Thanks for watching, guys. This is another Nice Slice Studio video. My name is Jordan P. Anderson, and we'll see you on the next one.